Hello, you're watching Ellie from Elementary Paper Crafting. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator here in the UK. Today's project is using the Expressions in Ink bundle and the suite, in fact, and that includes beautiful stamp set, the dies to match, and some absolutely gorgeous designer series paper. I'll just show you the stamp pad here. Got these lovely abstract designs, beautiful little sort of rose, the leaves, etc. And the dies here. And there's a little ephemera pack, including some gems, sequins, and some gold foil pieces. Absolutely gorgeous. And you'll see some of the papers from the collection in just a moment. So the card we're making is this double Z fold. And I think you'll agree it's rather splendid. So let's get on, and I'm going to show you how you actually make this card. And this is actually a 2-for-1 project. You're going to need 2 pieces of cardstock. I'm using A4 because that's the size that's sold in the UK. If you're using a different sized cardstock, for instance, if you're in the USA, I know that your cardstock is letter size, and it's slightly smaller than ours that way, but bigger that way. But basically, if you look at what I'm doing, we're going to fold it in half and then in half again. So if you just work out those measurements in your cardstock, you won't go wrong. So I'm going to use my Stampin' Up trimmer to do these folds and scoring. And I'm going to take, first I've got 2 pieces, so I'm using Just Jade and Pale Papaya. You need 2 pieces that complement each other, and I'm going to use this one to demonstrate the measuring and scoring. Now when I'm using A4 and I'm having to fold it in half and half again, because it's a strange measurement, if I'm using inches, which I invariably do, I like to just take the edge off this so that this measures 11.5 inches, and that makes it much easier to find your central points. So put it in the trimmer in the landscape orientation and take it up to the 5 3/4 inches mark and score. Then I'm going to turn it over and take it to 2 7/8 of an inch and score again. Okay, so you've got a score down the centre and a score midway between the centre and the edge of the card. Then I'm going to turn it to portrait orientation, and I'm going to take it to 5 3/4 again, but this time I'm going to cut. So you've now got 2 pieces of cardstock. If you're using centimetres, there's no need to trim off the width of the card or the length of the card. You can leave it as it is. And you need to score at 14.8 centimetres the first time and 7.4 centimetres the second time. And then when you cut, you will cut at 14.85 centimetres. Okay, now I want you to do exactly the same thing with your other piece of card. So you've cut them and scored them identically. And then you simply fold this one in half and fold that one back and do exactly the same with the smaller piece. So they both look like this. They're both Z fold. So when you've done that with both pieces of cardstock, and what I'm going to do is take away this piece and replace it with this piece. And what we're going to do is turn this around and over, and that is going to become the front part of our card. So it makes a kind of double Z fold card. I've cut some pieces of designer series paper to fit my cardstock, and I've chosen the Expressions in Ink paper, which I absolutely adore. I love these sort of marbled abstract designs with the lovely pieces of gold foiling in. So I'm going to pop that one on the front, this one's going to go inside, and that one there. Now the measurements for these in inches, that's 5.5 by 5.5, or 14.2 by 14.2 centimetres. These two pieces are both 5.5 by 2 5/8 of an inch, or 14.2 centimetres by 6.8 centimetres. And then we're simply going to adhere these to our cardstock. Okay. So that's the basic shape of the card, like so. So I'm now going to repeat that process using the pale papaya cardstock and the designer series paper again, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how I finish off the card. I brought in one of our masks, which is available in the current annual catalogue, and they come in a set of 4. And this one is just so different, and I thought I'd give this one a try today. I thought it would contrast with the angular shapes here, would contrast with marbled rounded shapes of this one. So all I'm going to do is take my piece of Just Jade, and I'm going to move this out so we've got a piece of messy paper underneath, taking the Just Jade stamp pad and a blending brush, and I'm just picking up some colour on the brush. I like to make sure that I use a good application of the ink, and then I dab the heavy ink off so that I'll get a softer blend, and simply sweep across quite gently. No real pattern of what I'm doing here. I'm just lightly going over this stencil, like so. I'm going to move it across, and it doesn't matter that this doesn't line up. You know, in fact, it's kind of quite nice if it doesn't. Things do actually look nicer if they're more kind of abstract. And just finish off this part over here. So your application of ink could be heavier in some places than others, and it really doesn't matter. You know, it looks fine. So if you imagine that when it's folded and out like that, if it doesn't line up anywhere, no one's really going to know. And you could decorate this even further. So again, it would be, you know, much more hidden if there is any kind of piece that doesn't match up. So all you have to do then is simply stick this piece onto this bit of the front. So what I tend to do, to make sure I don't put glue where I don't want it, I will just take my piece of cardstock just to put a couple of lines top and bottom so that I know I just pop the glue onto this cardstock all over that bottom section. And it's a good idea to put this flat to stick this piece on, and then match it up here, and then if you turn it over you can match both of your pieces so that it's flat here. And then I like to use my bone folder to make sure I get a good contact here. Now when it comes to sticking this piece down, the easiest way to do it is to put the glue on the back of the piece that's actually going to be up against the card, and add your glue like so, and then fold the card flat, close it up, and just let it dry on its own. So I've got a book here I'm just going to add to the top, and I give it a few minutes to dry off, because when you're making a card with a fun fold, it's a really good idea to make sure it's very firmly stuck, because it's going to be open and closed quite a lot, and you want to make sure it's going to hold still. So I've taken one of my favourite dies from the Expressions in Ink suite, which is this gorgeous leaf pattern. And I've taken some Evening Evergreen cardstock, and I've cut this one out. Now, I just wanted to show you how easy it is to take out all those little pieces. Stampin' Up have a lovely tool called the, I've forgotten it now. I'm going to say Pick Me Up tool, but I don't think that's what it's called. I'll check that out in just a second. And there's an attachment, which is one of these brush heads that goes on the top. Now, I've got the original one that Stampin' Up sold a couple of years ago, so I didn't invest in the new one because this one works beautifully. But all you do is just rub it over your die cut, and all those tiny little bits fall out. And if there are any stubborn little bits, it's very simple to just go like this with your finger and thumb and just get the last couple of little bits. Some bits will be a little bit stubborn, but they're not, you know, it's not very difficult to get them out. So they are all out in, you know, just a couple of seconds. And then you can just empty these little bits into your bin. So that's all those bits gone, and I can pop this away. Okay, so now that we've got that cut out, I'm going to use that to decorate the front of our card, along with some other pieces that I've previously cut out. So I've stamped the images here, this little rose kind of effect, the double leaf here, and the single one there. So I've used the Evening Evergreen again for the stamping, so it matches in with this piece. And I've used the Pale Papaya for my little sort of rose shapes. And I'm going to position them in a little cluster on the front of my card. So let's just move that one over there a little bit, bring all this in nice and centrally. Now I want to work with my card like this because I want to arrange my things and see how they look on the front of the card. This is going to annoy me if it's sticking up all the time. So what I do is simply take an ordinary paper clip and use it to hold down the card so that I can see better what I'm doing. And this gives you a chance to play around with the shapes that you've cut out. So I want to make a sort of little trio shape with these. And what I like to do is kind of put them together so that one overlaps the other and that one overlaps the other, if you know what I mean. So there's not one predominantly on top and one hiding down the bottom. So I'm just going to work out roughly where I want this. Okay, so I'm going to position these kind of like, I'm going to put the lighter colour leaf perhaps here. So I think something like that is kind of where I'm aiming. So I'm going to start by taking this one from underneath, which is a little bit tricky, and I'm just going to put glue on this side. So I'm just going to pop that down like so. So it's only this side that's stuck. And that's going to allow me to tuck this piece underneath there, so that this one is on top of that one, this one's on top of that one, and then that becomes that one on top. I kind of like go around a little circle there. Slide this one out and just apply glue here. And then I'm going to pop that one under there like so. And that allows me to pop some glue on this area and tuck that one underneath here. So I hope I've explained that well enough. And then that, because it's not stuck all over, it gives me that little bit of space to tuck my leaves underneath there. And I can choose to put it completely under, or I can pop it just like so. So it's sort of over on top of one and under the other, which I quite like the look of. That one there, I'm actually going to leave that just sticking out a tiny little bit. It's a bit different. And I like the fact that this is coming over the top of my added piece in the front. Just gives it a little bit of a, more of a 3D effect, I think. And then I might pop that one just like that. I might bring it out slightly. Pop it there. Nope, I quite like it there. So let's just pop that one under there. So you can do whatever you want with your die cuts. Alternatively, if you didn't want to actually cut something out, you could stamp a design on here. That's fine. Do whatever you like. This part as well, if you didn't want to use a mask, you could perhaps use another piece of designer series paper, or you could use an embossing folder to emboss this first before you stick it on. So my ideas are just guidelines of what I thought would look nice. You obviously can do whatever pleases your eye. And I'm just going to tuck this one. Where did I get this one from? Under here. That's it. So now I can just let that paper clip come away. Check everything's where I want it. And then if I want to, I can add a little bit of glue here now and just make sure that this is stuck down quite firmly, because we don't want anything falling off inside our card, inside our envelope. So I will just, I'm a little bit impatient when I come to glue. I tend to glue something down and then I spoil it all by moving it. And that one, I think it would look quite nice if that leaf shape is falling down that way rather than standing up. I like it falling down like this. Okay, to finish off our card, I'm going to show you a different way to adhere this onto the front. You might have seen me in the past putting glue on the back of my hand when I'm doing something that's a bit intricate. But because this is large, the back of my hand isn't really ideal. So the other way I do this is by taking my glue and putting some onto my silicone mat here. That should be sufficient. And then I've got a piece of sponge which I've slightly dampened. Really, it's not wet, but you can feel there's moisture on it. That's plenty. Turn your die cut over and then take up some of this glue and just dab it onto the back of your work. And this distributes a small amount of glue just where it's needed. Make sure you've got some all over. Then I like to use my tweezers to pick this up, and then bring my card in and just place it down where it's required. It is a little bit dainty at this stage, but you'll get there. So just hold it down. Because there's not too much glue on there, you'll find you don't get any oozing out, and it dries very, very quickly. Okay, so we're almost done. I've gone ahead and prepared a greeting which I've stamped using the Evening Evergreen Classic stamp pad, and I've stamped it onto the pale papaya which matches our card base, and I'm going to just stick this on flat. I did think about using some dimensionals to make it a little 3D, but I've decided to keep it flat because this is all popping up. I don't think it needs anything else. So I'm going to just use my Tombow on the back of this piece and pop it so that it's about a centimetre, half an inch or so in from each corner there. And that's really nice. Now when this card is displayed, it stands like this, so you can see this area. Now I thought about putting a ribbon bow there, but then I decided that I don't think it'd be a really good idea, because when the card's folding up and in the post, that ribbon bow is going to be sticking up. It's going to damage this. So for the moment I'm going to leave that blank, and I'm going to come back to it, and I might maybe cut a couple more die cuts to pop in here, but I'll see what happens. But what I am going to do is, there are some gems that come with the Expressions in Ink suite in the latest in colours, and I'm just going to add just one of these, and I'm going to just pop that up in the corner there, just to finish that off. Now when I come to writing this card, I will add a piece of cardstock on the back here, or paper, and I like to actually type my greetings because I find my handwriting spoils my handmade cards. So I'll type something, and I will probably stamp a couple of these images onto the bottom there to carry forward the theme. So I really hope you've enjoyed today's project. It'd be really great if you give me a thumbs up, follow me on Facebook, subscribe to my YouTube channel, share everything please, and you'll see links to my online store in the description box below on YouTube. If you're looking on Facebook, you'll see a link to my shop at the top of the page. And I've also included on the YouTube description box links to the annual catalogue and the current mini catalogues. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you come back again soon. Bye bye for now.